Hunger in Minecraft has been a mechanic since like 2011, and yet none of the actual food items they've added into the game look more appetizing to me than the sculk block. This might be my repressed childhood desire to have cosmic brownies all the time, but when I look at this block, I just wanna bite it, feel that texture and that flavor, and that made me think about all the other blocks in Minecraft. Like TNT, if we go by description, nom 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 nom, congratulations, you've just ingested 30 pounds of gunpowder and I'm not sure you'll survive the nitrate poisoning. But the looks? Look at those slight edges, those round shapes. If you drew this on a hot dog, I wouldn't know better. What about all the other 525 uniquely textured blocks? Would I eat soul sand? Does the melon really look as tasty as a real melon would? Does the piglin head taste like bacon? And how could I make it so that purple block manages to rank in A tier? And so I made a list. And now I'm not sure whether that makes me hungry, a glutton, or a sociopath, but the answer could still be all three, so I'd rather not find out. Darn it, I found out by mistake. Turns out I'm just stupid. So, what makes a block look badly? It's easy to simply imagine all the blocks are tasty, but I want you to genuinely look me in the eyes and tell me you'd bite into netherrack outside of being curious about its taste. I'm not talking about licking the blocks, I'm talking about bite, chew, swallow, the definition of eating. The dark red color with those light highlights makes the block look wet and chewy. The flavor can be left a little to the imagination, but I would expect a bitter and irony taste. This is what I placed in the would never eat tier. Blocks that you just wouldn't want or otherwise couldn't take a bite of. Bedrock looks rough, you'd break your teeth before you'd break free of the desire to actually eat it. Glass looks like glass, and you'd probably end up destroying your intestinal system faster than Mojang can destroy your hopes for the next scheduled update drop. Tinted glass would probably even be a similar situation with larger chunks, and let's not even imagine how eating that would feel. At first, I thought I'd kiss the dragon head, but I decided against it, then actually eating it would probably just be like eating a bucket of sharpened metallic guitar pins. Yikes. Heck, even if we go by looks, typically people don't want to eat the face of the animal they're eating. A third of the blocks that ended up in this category ended up being copper blocks in the weathered and exposed states because the green spots from the moss can't ever look yummy. And to go along with that, I also put the whole moss block in this category due to the fact that the best case scenario it just looks like a terrible pesto. And the wet sponge's water suffers from a similar issue. One of the things that were easier to rank are those blocks that just are supposed to be what they look like. Imagine the anvil and the magma blocks. You can't buy the anvil, and eating these rocks would be a harrowing experience. What exactly are the structure and jigsaw blocks supposed to depict? These dark colors work together, but this looks absolutely like... Wait, Banjo-Kazooie? Most colored items are ranked because the texture can be understood differently based on certain colors, but the purple coral block just looks wrong, probably one of the least tasty looking blocks in the entire game. It's genuinely disgusting and it looks like maggots. The purple color just looks ghastly. What are you looking at? On the opposite end, you get things like this mushroom crop that look tasty, but it's offset by the fact that it's very common knowledge that mushrooms with this pattern are generally not a very safe consumption item. My favorite in this tier is the barrel block, which like you'd probably recognize from this sprite, but it actually looks something like this. Because you can't see it. This here is the actual definition of the highly coveted unmovable object, and I suppose something you can move and also can mine is also something you can't bite. Then soul sand just looks like poop. That's the only reason I put it here. I could care less about the screaming faces. Mining this would probably be far more terrifying. The second tier I got down to ranking was the very elegantly named would eat only if forced or die. I know, I'm a modern day poet. Basically, if someone pointed a gun at you and told you to eat the block if you want to save your life, you'd happily do it. So as soon as a single bite of it wouldn't kill you, I'd venture to put it here. Like the torch, it does have a wood part that you could bite into safely, but I still consider eating the hot amber looking part would be a questionable decision. So this ended up naturally being this tier with the most blocks at a whopping 161. Most bricks, chiseled and smooth block variations ended up here, as well as most blocks with some form of small visible metal pieces. Notice how many of these blocks are used in more neutral and grey colors, with the exception of this specific part with some oranges and red that simply look crumbly or rough, and this is because I took into account the way human brains tend to associate simpler colors with better meals. Whites and grey seem unappealing and uninteresting. It's very hard to imagine what something tastes like without the color trait, and thus we tend to prefer foods colored in red, yellow, green and brown, which not only give you an idea, but are also ingrained into your primitive traits due to the diets humans have had for like the history of the time in existence. Meanwhile, colors like orange, blue or pink are more natural. The foods with these colors would be expected to be man-made or typically sweet, though of course you can still find them in nature, which leaves purple and black as colors that are absolutely an acquired taste. Excluding a few berries and veggies, you can probably only think of a handful of legumes that are purple or black. Does anyone even know what a legum is, or am I just speaking in scientific for like YouTube standards? TLDR, if you would walk on it, it's probably in this tier. When it comes to the stonecutter, I decided I just could assume that you're not eating the stonecutter's blade while it's on. But I'm also assuming that you're willing to experience cannibalism if it would save your life. Like, the fire coral, skull, and conduit just look like a dissected group of human parts, which I found to be a funny coincidence. So that's why they are here. I would eat that eyeball to save my life, but I don't really know where you would draw the line. I put chorus flowers in here in part due to the fact that breaking a chorus flower doesn't give you a fruit, so I guess this would just taste like a weird space flower that may or may not be dangerous. We got a few instances of blocks that look tasty if you eat at the right locations, like the emerald blocks with their sugary looking green spots or the nether gold ore with its slippery buttery holes. The one that is most surprising here is the iron block, which I rate highly because the borders make it look like a hollow crate rather than a solid block, which is convenient for us in our biting endeavors. Oh yeah, before we get ahead, the planks here include any variation of the plank block that uses the same texture, such as fences or pressure plates with the same thing. And this is generally the case for many similar scenarios on the list, unless shown otherwise. Like the beds in the next tier, where all of the beds look about the same flavor-wise, so I just grouped them together into the red bed. Which, on that note, the next tier is food that I wouldn't eat, but just because it doesn't look tasty, and not because I, wouldn't. Basically, I'm talking about grass. Almost every green leaf, plant and sapling achieve this position. The feebled fern, the fearful up icon, a sunflower facing the wrong way, the flowering azalea, and even you, Jimmy? Anyone can eat grass if they dare hard enough. It's a matter of going outside and grabbing a fistful. Nothing special about it. It's just that grass doesn't taste particularly well. Most of us who have experienced it did so by mistake. A lot of the stuff that looks and is something ranks as what that something would be in an actual, real life ranking. And that's been true for most of the blocks that I didn't bother to mention so far. But this one's about to blow your mind. Bookshelves. The bright and colorful books almost look like a drawer full of condiments, or even better, rainbow sprinkles. The lectern has less books and thus is less edible, but I'd still gladly eat whatever few sprinkles I may get. And that's what makes the rest of this list insane. Once we get into things that look like stuff you'd actually eat, even if they wouldn't naturally be, you realize tons of silly things that you wouldn't expect happening. Because the block description and environments honestly do a lot for your interpretation of the object. Real cactuses may be prickly and found in the desert, but if I told you this is a kiwi, doesn't it suddenly look juicy, sweet? These wood planks are the perfect shade to look chocolatey sweet. The composter looks like gravy with either rot or cheese curds, so the first bite might be the worst mistake, but if it is gravy, I just won several times harder than anyone else in the history of ever. There's also cases where the opposite happens, where the colors of this watermelon are so saturated and you can help but wonder if it's beat up or radioactive. Or look at kelp, often enjoyed raw and on the wood, but the look of this plant in Minecraft doesn't awaken hunger. You can't even know what a chorus fruit would taste like, but at the very least, this part of the plant seems more edible. Then you get to something like the turtle eggs that seem flavorful, but I did begin to wonder if there's some emotional weight to eating these eggs until I noticed there's some green spots in it, which usually is a red flag for foods and especially for eggs. Talking about flags, you could probably eat them if you took it slow enough. Some of these objects like item frames and note blocks look like they are also made out of cloth, so here they go. I did bend the rules a little for the barrel because its tastiness kinda comes from what you imagine it contains. It could be the most banger drink or spiderwebs, which by the way are also on this tier. I put the tough bricks in this tier due to the sheen in the tiles, making them please my eyes for sweets, and on the opposite end, horn coral made it in here because their french fry look was absolutely nailed. I don't know why, but giving the blocks white details at the corners makes anything look appetizing enough to eat, which leads us to the next tier, consisting of blocks that I'd like to eat, but I don't expect much from, like the aforementioned TNT. It does look like a flavorful meat stuff, but it doesn't look like something that's been cooked, in part because the coloring is closer to raw meat, but also because the illusion breaks if you look at the top and bottom faces of the blocks. Wood blocks mostly have these vertical bark shape that reminisces of chocolate, but the tops look generally unappetizing, while the opposite happens with cherry logs because the horizontal bark may not look as palatable, but the top face has been served to me in restaurants and I don't even need to squint at it. Then the striped log has the best of both worlds, while the regular jungle log has some green smudges which directed it to D tier. This version just looks like a nut all around, netting it a passing grade. The stripped greens and high fee is the highest rated purple block by the way, and mostly because it looks like a beetroot, the actual block of which is considerably further up. Anyways, I was told of a new development regarding woodlock, something about whether or not you wanna beef with me or if you're too chicken. I'm not sure I got the assignment. A white sheen gives a lot of edibility to blocks like obsidian, emerald and diamond doors, amethyst blocks, and copper, which I've eaten before on this channel and may or may have not single-handedly inspired this entire stupid video. The packed mud block may look like nothing to you, but my Mexican ass eats beans every day and trust me, These are some succulent looking baked beans. Give it up for the cartography table for being the only work table to make it here, and shout out to the sniffer egg for being red and green and yet still looking more consumable than the turtle egg. Oh, and I guess the heavy core also could be consumable if it's like some sort of capsule in that small shape. I don't know. I did this comfortably, probably. Anyways, we've eaten, but now we must feast. Stuff that I probably would enjoy eating. I have it for a meal, and I hope there's enough leftovers of it for it to cover my 3 AM munchies. The good thing is that most of what's here actually looks like food. Maybe the exception is the purple pillar, which just gives me the desire to pass my fingers through its pecks. And if you don't understand why that makes it tasty, you're just too young. But seriously, the pumpkin and red mushroom blocks are straight up food. The latter having 2 advantages from its shroom form in the sense that it doesn't look like a mushroom and could be confused for a fruit. The second being that it hides an interior texture that makes the whole block look oh so delish and biteable. The light blue and pink woods look like sweet cotton candy, sugarcane and beetroots are actually food, the mangrove wood set also has a glistening beetroot property, the horned coral fan could fool me into eating them in a salad with these lanterns as a packaged drink on the side. Talking about drinking, I wanna guzzle the juice inside this acacia log and just slightly sip on the dirty beans which apparently fit this flower pot. These concrete powders, which were ranked based on the condiment they remiss, would look great on fruit or a cake. The only block I don't have confidence putting here is the bamboo shoot, which I'm pretty sure I subconsciously want specifically because of Animal Crossing. Also, the brew instant looks like an interesting food item presented still in the cooking utensil, like that's how they cook it, and then the inner yellow steak is looking like a Wagyu A5 beef to me. The entire tier doesn't need that many explanations, honestly, except for one thing: potatoes. You could believe that because of my username I have some sort of vendetta against potatoes, but I quite like potatoes. It's just that I'm probably not smart enough to notice a bad potato from a batch and would end up poisoning someone else if I serve it to them. That is because the next stew is not just food that I enjoy, but also food that I would serve others. Starting with butter. Gold in Minecraft has historically been called butter due to a content creator from 2013 calling the gold ingots butter because of how they look, similar to what I'm doing right now. And if you know who this creator is, welcome to the club. You're old now, you cannot understand why the younger generation is so obsessed with eating uranium. Here we eat netherwort. We know its words, but they look like succulent red berries, so we're here to eat the worts now. Seriously, I can't explain why most blocks in this tier are here, and you won't even bat an eye. That's dirt, you say, but take into account the delicious looking grill marks on this farmland. Of course I wanna eat the berries and honey. The target block is a peppermint in everything but shape. Ice is ice. You go to any gathering with food and you're probably having ice before any of the actual food because drinking water alone is for some reason more socially acceptable than eating food alone. The redstone lamp is a cracker. The block of raw iron looks like a perfectly cooked chicken. The bacon. Not only is it called a bacon in secret, but it also has like one of the best presentations for a dish ever. I can see myself lifting up the little glass dome to eat the blue part inside, and it's just so soft, so jello-y, so tasty. I put the pots all over the pigling head on purpose because gravy on bacon sounds like a banger combo. The red, white and brown concretes correspond to paprika, salt and pepper, which go on almost every meal. The bone block is a marshmallow and the Nutella shell, when activated, reveals candy inside. I think I'm completely losing it because all the candles in this list just look like different fruits and veggies to me. The wick really makes the illusion complete and these 5 colors look like all sorts of differently colored peppers. For the record, tomato, pepper, jalapeno, ghost pepper, blueberries, grapes, cacao, grapes, blueberries, eggplant. The remaining ones just look like candles, but at the very least the top 2 look scented candles. And before I lose it any harder, I think I'll talk about each of the top 14 most comestible blocks now. The gourmet food tier. The kind of meal that's way above my pay grade as a minuscule channel which you should check more content on before I'm evicted. The stuff that you need a chef for. The number 14 most edible block is frog spawn, which is probably the heaviest pick that uses real world information, because it's basically adjacent to caviar, a real world delicacy when prepared properly, which I've been lucky enough to try once and only one time. TLDR is as with many fishes, the preparation is really what makes the flavor shine. I suppose I have tried other less expensive fish variants, but who gives a crap about those peasant foods? Number 13 is light, someone made physical by the Minecraft devs at some point as another one of those special blocks that look like John Cena or Drax when he isn't moving with a particle inside them. If you were to actually sustain yourself through sun, you'd probably get a lot of time, but I think I'd rather eat food since it's just one of the most fun things, and no, I'm not over 150 pounds. I put this here because eating light has got to be one of the weirdest things you could theoretically give someone. Very zen and crowd, but also probably very skillful. Number 12 is black glazed terracotta, which I ranked throughout this list in a pretty arbitrary way since they are by far the most visually complex blocks added into Minecraft. I took some liberties with them in particular. The lime one is clearly calling back to an actual lime, but everything else I just kinda ranked on vibes. Like, the orange one has a tasty looking color, but the pattern doesn't really inspire anything. And I put the cyan one at the very bottom because it's very hard to tell how mess is supposed to taste like, but at least the black one immediately reminded me of licorice, both black and red variants. I admit, I am a fan of it because I am old and potentially the range, so that's how this gained its spot. Number 11 is a dragon egg, for reasons I've divulged last time I did a Minecraft video, which, by the way, I'm sorry for all the long time finds from a lack of the usual variety. I hope you see why it's a necessary evil. Just think though, fried dragon egg. It's like eldritch horror, but now it has a salty flavor. Number 10 is finally an actual food item, cocoa beans, which when grown display a nice glisten and the promise of chocolatey goodness. Maybe a little of a shame when you actually try it and realize cocoa itself isn't sweet, but at least visually you won me over. Number 9 is good old mushrooms that you'll probably put on pizza. I actually love the pixel art for it since it kinda looks right from any angle. A simple pick for a simple number. Number 9 is sea pickles, which got a lot of points for being stackable and looking just like pickles. Honestly, it's easy to point out when food just looks like food. Though I did dock some points due to the fact that finding this underwater where it gives off light wouldn't be the best style to eat it. Regularly humans don't prefer food that is radiating light, I guess. Number 7 is the block of dry kelp, which I know not many people love, and I certainly wouldn't if it didn't have these stripes going around it to get across how soft and crumbly the items they hold are likely to be. You can even understand the way they are stacked on one another from it alone, which just does a great job at making it tempting to the palate of the tongue. Number 6 is the sculk I mentioned near the start of the video, and I stick to my claims that I wanna eat this cosmic concoction. It reminds me a lot of those galaxy cakes you see online, but my fanatism of the Nebula theme probably helped with some bias. Top 5 is the mushroom stem, another item that you can change one of its faces to give off the information of something with layers of flavors. The sides look melted due to the shape of the shading, and I can't deny this reminds me of mouth-watering hamburgers. Top 4 is actually redstone. Meet the daylight sensor. I can't imagine what happened in the graphics team for this to look like chocolate pieces with white chocolate. I'd imagine the visuals would resemble a solar panel, but I will not mind this at all if you just let me reach into a bag filled with these bad boys. One thing's for sure, there's no daylight in my belly. Who inverted this? Why would you ruin the illusion? This is the most tragic thing that's happened since they gave Jason Momoa this outfit for the movie. Grouping numbers 3 and 2 into the honeycomb and honey block, since both share a theme. And yeah, I don't think this needs that much explanation. I do think I prefer the volume of the honey block in the inventory, as once you put it down it creates a weird spot in the graphic. One thing is for sure though, both of these blocks remind me of the best part about honey. It's an important plot element in Jerry Seinfeld's B movie. And finally, the tastiest block in all of Minecraft, the most unexpected, flavorful looking, and peculiar pick you could ever imagine. It's cake. Particularly its one slice eaten variant. Like, even for a game with limited graphics, this cake is amazing. Likely amongst the most popular gaming cakes ever created along with the Portal one, and one that you can picture the flavor of immediately without needing any descriptions. Honestly, it is a bit anticlimactic, but you can't argue it doesn't clearly outpace most blocks in Minecraft. In my heart, I'm sure the sculk block tastes better, but my eyes, they say otherwise. And now, I've eaten the entire world of Minecraft. Great!